Real life stories are an important part of the Declutter Hub podcast because it's always so inspirational to hear how other people have struggled with clutter and how they've overcome the challenge. Today, we're chatting to Declutter Hub member Judie to share her story.
You're listening to the Declutter Hub podcast, bringing you tried and tested, no-nonsense tips and advice from the leading experts in decluttering and organising your home. Now here's your host, Ingrid Jansen.
Hello and welcome, listeners, to this episode. I'm Ingrid. If you're a brand new listener, thanks for being here. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss our weekly podcasts. If you've been listening in for a while, thanks so much for being here. And we've got a really fantastic treat for you because we are chatting to Declutter Hub member Judie in this podcast. And she's going to tell us how clutter has been in her life and why she joined the Declutter Hub and what she's been learning. And she's going to share her journey with us. So welcome, Judie.
Well, thank you, Ingrid. I'm glad to be here.
Well, I'm super excited to have you on the show. And of course, as per usual, I have loads of questions for my guests. So let's get started. So let's start first. What kind of clutter have you got, Judie? Is it books or clothes or a bit of everything? Tell me a little bit about it.
Well, I've got quite a bit of everything. At least I had quite a bit of everything. I've been a member of the Declutter Hub for a year almost. The last time that you did your Reset Your Home challenge, that's when I did my first Declutter Hub challenge with you. And I was really excited about it. So I actually joined for a month. And then you did another Declutter Hub challenge, and it was Declutter Your Wardrobe. And I did that challenge, and I re-upped for another month. And at the end of that, it was probably November, I decided I'd join the Declutter Hub. And so in the end of 2020, I joined the Declutter Hub, and I've done a lot since then. So right now, my clutter is at bay. I am in the middle of like a files challenge that you guys just posted. And Ingrid, I do have piles all over my office. In fact, my daughter-in-law was here the other day and she said, "Your office exploded in paper." And I said, "Yes, but it's going to be better. It'll be better in a few days, a few weeks." So yes.
A little bit all of the above then, a little bit of everywhere. So I know you've been an amazing member. I know you've done lots of work around your house. And, it's just so lovely to hear how you got started and how you found us. So you've been with us for a year now. So what made you decide to make that leap into I need to become a member? I've done a few challenge now. I need to get on with it. What happened?
Well, the challenges worked for me, and that made a big difference. I felt that with each challenge, I had accomplished some of the things that I wanted to. And when I looked at the membership, I thought, I could hire somebody for an hour to come help me, or I could do this for a year, and I would probably get better results. Actually, I'm a pretty good at self-study person. Mm-hmm. I did my master's degree online, and what would have taken like 2.5 years, I did in a year and a half. Wow. So I knew that I could do the self-study. So to me, this seemed like the best option. Mm-hmm. I had joined other like clutter things online, and then I unjoined them because I wasn't getting anywhere. They wanted 15 minutes a day here, or do this for 10 minutes a day, or here's your challenge for today. But I needed something that I could do on my own, that I could focus on. So the Declutter Hub pretty much fit the bill for me.
Well, that's good to hear. I'm very relieved, listeners, that that's the case. So that's good. So if you look back now to kind of before you joined, how did the stuff come into your home? Did people give you stuff? Were you just not aware of how much clutter you have? Is it from people, from bereavements and then taking on other people's kind of sentimental items? Where do you think it all came from?
It's really kind of started quite a few years ago when I had 2 little boys, and then I had a little girl. and we lost that little girl. And I went into a deep depression. And so that kind of started things, and things sort of piled up. Now I'm in the mid 80s, 1980s. Mm-hmm. And from there, I went back to teaching. And after I started teaching, my job entailed so many hours. Plus, I was in the National Guard. And so I had a full-time job with another 30 hours piled on top of that to coach a debate team at school. Then I had one weekend a month where I was doing National Guard. And then on top of that, my husband quit his job and he stayed home with the kids. So me working those hours helped, but I got to tell you, he wasn't a great housekeeper and he didn't know how to get rid of things. So I was stuck with all of the clutter. Then 2 years ago, I moved from my house that I had lived in for 43 years to a new home. In the new home, I did have a garage full of boxes first, and I got rid of those within like a couple of months. Then in the summer of 2020, in August, after I'd been in the home a year, the kids cleaned out the crawl space in my old home. From there, that came to my house. Now, in the crawl space were things from my grandmother who had died in 1999. Then there were things from like old things that I had put down there that I didn't quite know what to do with. The crawl space was probably 4 feet tall, so I could get in and out of there. There was Christmas decorations. There was clothes that the kids had grown out of that I probably forgot about and never used for the next kid. There was all kinds of things. And it was more like an attic, but it was under the living room floor. Yeah. And so they cleared that out, and I ended up with this huge pile in my garage. That's when I joined the Reset Your Home Challenge, and I thought I was going to clean up my garage, but from there, I learned a lot more.
Oh, wow. That is so fascinating. So can I just for my own clarity, I'm looking at all these questions. So you kept your old house and the kids cleaned it out your crawl space later, or did your kids move into your old house?
My kids were living with us, and I had to move to be an empty nester. So I bought a new house, and we were to the point where my husband needed a one level. Yeah. He had been in a pretty bad motorcycle accident. Mm-hmm. And the one level seemed to be more appropriate for us. Yeah. And the nice thing about it was I went from about 1,100 square feet to about 2,000 square feet. So I had a lot more space, but I had a lot of stuff, and it was stuff I didn't love. So anything that I didn't love, I kind of decluttered at that point. Then when they moved everything from that crawl space to my new home, I have a 3-car garage, but I only had room for 2 cars. Mm-hmm. So I had to do something.
Wow. I think probably the people from the UK who are listening are like, what? A 3-car garage? What is this? We don't even have a place to park our car. If we're lucky, we've got 1 car. I know, of course, because we always forget how big your houses are. And of course, I've lived in the US, so I can I have a feeling, because you've got so much more space than we have. So I can understand that. But so for the people who are listening in and going, well, gigantic house, no problem. But clutter is still clutter, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And I had way too much of it. It was kind of exciting when I started going through the boxes that I had in the garage. The things that I found were amazing. I found some pieces of my sterling silver that I thought I had lost, that probably kids had put in things and they got stuffed away. I found some of my grandmother's old diaries from like the 1920s and 30s. She moved here from Denmark, and so they were fascinating. And then she wrote some more diaries when she was on a mission in Denmark, and they were all in Danish, so I couldn't read them, but they're fascinating anyway to have. My sister has them in California right now, and she's probably going to find someone to get them translated. I found just amazing stuff, old Christmas decorations that I've forgotten that I'd had, and different things like bags full of business suits and things that I had worn when I had done a professional job. And most of those have been donated. I still have some in the garage that need to go, but COVID has put a hold on those. And just things like that. So The nice thing about it was that when I moved to my new house, I had one of my sisters came and she said, "Oh, let's put your kitchen together." So we put my kitchen together, and I have like an 8x8 room that's a walk-in pantry. And we lined all of the shelves in there with plastic. We lined all of my cupboards. And I have, I use the first two shelves of my cupboards, but the top two there's nothing in them. They're empty. I have some beautiful things that I'm excited that I can use now that I didn't have room to use before, that weren't easily accessible. So that's been nice. Yeah. And my kitchen hasn't been one of my problem areas. My problem area has been my personal clothing, my husband's clothing, and just the pieces that were in the garage that I didn't really want to bring into the house. So things that I could get rid of.
So why do you think, because that's interesting, because normally clothing is considered one of the easier things to declutter. So why do you think it's hard? It's one of the harder categories for you and your husband?
Well, for me, it's that I spent so much money on that stuff. And you know what? I don't want to give it to a place that's going to try and resell it. I want to give it to somewhere where they will give it to people who really need it, like women in business, where they give them business suits to go out for, job interviews. That to me is more important than to make any kind of money on it or to let anybody else make money on it.
Yeah.
I have given a lot of odd pieces to the Savers store, which is very close to us. Savers is like a resale store, a charity store. And I don't have a problem with books. I use a Kindle. In fact, I have two different Kindles, one that fits in my purse and one that I can leave on my nightstand. Mm-hmm. And so I don't have a problem with books. In fact, I have a shelf that's maybe 3 feet long in the top of a closet where most of the books that I wanted to keep are.
Okay.
And I really don't have a problem with too much jewelry. I have a few select pieces that I like to wear. And you know what? It fascinated me the other day when I saw your jewelry, I would guess a quick win that you did. I have the same jewelry box that was my grandmother's, that when I pulled it out, I put it in my closet and use it as one of my jewelry boxes. Yeah.
So just explain to our listeners. So in the membership, we have courses where we show our members how they need to declutter, organize, and sort out different rooms in their houses. But we also have over 65 quick win videos where we tackle smaller projects. And I recently recorded a new video all about jewelry organizers and kind of like, how do you do that? And I gave some top tips, and that video ended up in the membership. So a lot of our members say when they talk about a quick win, it means that they've watched the video in the membership and gone, "Oh, I'm going to do that. That sounds like a little neat little project to do." And sometimes they're like, "Well, this looked like a quick win, but it actually took me hours."
None of the quick wins has taken me that long. So I'm kind of good. Lucky on that one.
So you joined the Declutter Hub, and then where did you get started? Because you did a few little bits throughout the challenge. Was it indeed the garage again, or did you thought, okay, I'm now going to follow a plan? How did that work?
Well, my plan was that at least one box a week had to come into my house. I figured there was like 40 something boxes and other odds and ends.
Yeah.
And so if I did it over a year, if I brought one box a week in, I would get it done. And I've succeeded in doing that way before my one box a week deadline.
Wow, congratulations.
And a lot of it has gone to, the books have been going to like my sisters and to their kids. And the other things that were my grandmother's, which was a lot of stuff. There was probably 8 or 9 boxes that were hers. And those things there was genealogy stuff that she had done. And there was some fascinating pictures that she had of people. And I've sent those to my sisters, and we've looked through them and tried to identify the people. I do have one aunt, a great aunt, who is now 95, I think. And she's been able to identify a few of them.
Oh, wow.
So it's fascinating that we're finding some of the things that we didn't know and getting that back. There's been a lot of other pictures that I had put in boxes, and I've got big bags of those that I'm sorting through, but I have gone through a lot of those and put, each one of my boys has a box. I have 4 boys. 2 of them are married. One is 24, and the oldest one that's 41 is probably never going to get married. He's in the middle now of buying a Learjet. So, I mean, I've got interesting children. The biggest problem I have had with that is that once I sort through them, where do I put the stuff that needs to go somewhere? And I know that one of the fascinating things that's still sitting on my back, I guess it's in my mudroom on the bench in there, is a pile of handkerchiefs. There's probably 35 handkerchiefs that were my grandmother's that all of the kids want to like give something to their kids. And so it would be grandma's handkerchiefs that have her initials and stuff on them.
Okay.
So things like that. And so memorabilia has been hard.
Yeah.
There were some things that were keepsakes. I gave a guitar to the guys who laid the cement out in my front.
Okay.
I gave away a lot of stuff. I mean, anybody who saw something they wanted, I've given it to them. So I feel much better being able to give things away. That for me is like a heartwarming experience.
Okay.
So what else do we need to go over?
I was wondering, so you said you've finished the boxes a lot earlier than you actually thought.
I would. Mm-hmm.
Why do you think that is? Were you just because you got the hang of it, or were the boxes as hard, or did you think what is the thinking behind that? What do you think happened?
Well, they weren't labeled, so a lot of it was curiosity. What's in this next box? What am I going to find? This has been fun so far. I'm finding things, they're treasures, a lot of memorabilia, a lot of things that like from my own children when they were little. I found a lot of Beanie Babies that my mother had sent to the kids when she was alive. And the kids didn't want them when I left home. They didn't want them. And so I probably have maybe 200 to 300 Beanie Babies sitting out in a big bin in the garage. And my son said, well, we should go through those and put them online. I think you'd make money. And I said, good, you can do that.
Yeah.
And I've accumulated a few things along the way. We have a pinball machine from the probably early 80s, 1980s, that's sitting in my garage that has been refurbished. And the kids had it refurbished. My boys had it refurbished. So I don't know whether they want to keep it or if it's going to be sold or what, but it's probably worth $5,000.
Wow.
We did declutter my husband's Harley, which was a real relief for me because he had a couple of accidents on it.
Okay.
And that was a nice thing to declutter. So anyway.
So lots more questions. Let's have a quick break. And then after the break, we'll come right back. Is your paperwork in a pickle? Are you constantly drowning in a sea of paperwork and can't put your hands on what you need when you need it? Well, we have good news. Our Purge Your Paperwork Masterclass is coming up on the 15th of November, so join us to delve deep into why paperwork is such a struggle. All the details you need are at declutterhub.com/paperwork. Welcome back, listeners. I have so many more questions for Judie. And of course, I kind of left you on a cliffhanger there because she just said before that actually she sold her husband's Harley. And the question I wanted to ask is, how does your husband feel about that? Was this actually a joint decision, or did you were you like on a decluttering kind of mission to get it out?
Yeah, we were trying to get rid of it. It was important to get rid of it because he'd had several accidents and he's 73.
Okay.
Which means that maybe he's a little too old to have that much fun.
Well, yes, safety comes first. So I can imagine that. And of course, that's a big decision to make as well. So that must have been a really kind of a relief for you, especially after there's been an accident. So I can imagine that. Absolutely. Okay. To continue sharing stories with us, Judie, because I absolutely love it. So what else would you like to share with us?
Oh, well, I'm really enjoying my house right now because we have space to do some things. And even though it's been a really hot summer in Utah, I've been lucky because I have pretty good air conditioning. And so on the 4th of July, when it was over 100 degrees outside, the kids came over with a cornhole game. And instead of taking it outside on my beautiful front lawn, we played inside in my wide open hallway, and we set them about 30 feet apart and we played cornhole. And my husband and my daughter-in-law actually won. So it was a fun challenge.
Yeah.
I know just this week, because I'm working on a challenge, my daughter-in-law was here. They were using the internet because theirs was out for a while they were getting a change in vendor. And she walked by my office and she said, "Whoa, your office has exploded. There's paper everywhere." But I am in the middle of a paperwork challenge, a filing challenge. So that wasn't really like the way it usually is. And it'll be better next week. So
yeah. So is paperwork one of the things you find that you find tricky, Judie?
Paperwork is probably one of my hardest. As a teacher, I seem to think that paper is a necessary thing, but I've realized that I can do so many things online, and I can actually have better resources online because I can attach to them more easily. Mm-hmm. So I've enjoyed the paperwork part of this. In fact, I was anticipating the newest edition that you guys put out.
Yeah. So we've recently put two very big paperwork courses inside our membership. And one of them is all about the core principle of paperwork. And the other one is a whole course with masses of lessons all about a filing system. So I know you've been watching those and learning from those, and glad to hear that's really, really helpful, because it's a really, really big part of clutter, isn't it, paper?
Yes. And for me, it's been huge. The other thing I had was a lot of extra artwork. Mm-hmm. And so I got creative. I have an unfinished basement, which is, again, another over 2,000 square feet. And on the bare studs, I hung all the extra artwork so that I could go down and look at it when I wanted to. That's been kind of fun.
You've got your own private art gallery.
Yes, I do. And I should charge admission. I think the thing that's best for me about the Declutter Hub is, first of all, that it's very user-friendly, and I can self-study, which is like one of my best things. Mm-hmm. I can select what I want to do. In fact, I had gone through all of the actual courses, and then you guys did the roadmap. And so I went back through the whole thing and did the roadmap. And there was a few things where I thought, oh, I didn't do that when I was working on that before. And it sort of was like I got extra credit for myself by doing something more.
Yeah.
And you know what? It's actually fun to listen to you and Leslie. You guys are hysterical most of the time. I know that I try not to miss any of your podcasts or any of your, question and answer sessions that you have for the members. I love those. And you seem to be able to introduce me to new things all of the time, stuff that I hadn't really thought about. I get to think about in a different way.
So if you look back to like before, how does it feel to be more organized? Does it have a massive impact on your day-to-day life? Do you feel that?
I do. And I feel that I can get up and do the things that I need to do. I know I usually, and I don't do laundry every day because there's only two of us, mm-hmm. but I do have certain things that I do at different times. Like I do the rugs every other week in the wash, and I do the sheets on our bed every week. And I'm careful about making sure that my husband has enough clothes. He doesn't know how to do laundry anymore, I don't think. Mm. So it's always nice to have that done. And again, like paperwork has helped me to get it organized. And I've been able to take like some of the files of pictures that I've done and actually create Shutterfly books for my kids. So they will have pictures that they won't have to look at separately. They can open a book and look back on their life, which I think is fun and fascinating for them. I know that I've done several Shutterfly books for myself, and my sister has done quite a few that have incorporated like trips that we've done or our parents and their lives. My sister has been amazing, but she got her master's in journalism at Northwestern University. So she does really a lot of that stuff, and it's fascinating. She's really good.
Amazing. So do you now see your home in different eyes? Now you've done a lot of the decluttering and you've been so incredibly active with, I mean, you've shared all of the projects that you've been doing. Have you actually been decluttering like every day, Judie? Because that's how it kind of sounds. Have you been on it all
Sometimes
the
I do
time?
little things. Yeah, sometimes I do little things. A couple of times, like a month, I'll take a scratch pad and walk around the house and make notes of things that I want to fix or do or change. And you know what? Things will sit on this, I guess I call it sort of a wish list.
Mm-hmm.
And I might do some research on something that I might need to fix or change. I know I had an old copper kettle that needed recoppering. So I took it to a place and got it recoppered. And in the meantime, I lost the, the knob on the top of the kettle.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to go find a new one. And so I have little things like that I need to fix and do. And instead of it being an old copper kettle that needed recoppering, it's now a beautiful piece that sits on my stove.
Yeah.
And so I can enjoy things more.
Yeah.
I find that the little things that I fix or find that I can use in a different way have helped me a lot too. I can enjoy them in a different way. And of course, I bought a few storage bins, but I bought them at the dollar store.
Yeah.
And I write on them so that they're labeled. I don't have a fancy label maker or anything, but I enjoy the labels that I do. And my closets are organized. My underwear is organized. And I've gotten rid of stuff that doesn't fit. And I still have too many clothes. But I think that as I go through from summer to winter again, that it will change and I'll get rid of more. And there's a basket in my closet on the floor for things that I plan to give away.
Yeah.
So I've learned a few tricks that have helped me a lot.
Yeah.
And when I counted shoes, I probably didn't have more than like 22 pairs of shoes, but half of them were flip-flops.
So it's interesting what you say. So you also mention your donation bin in your wardrobe, that it is really helpful. But what I love as well is that you kind of have this, you call it the wish list or a to-do thing. You're really onto repairing and mending and all of the jobs that always then seem to come last. But I think probably because you're getting more and more organized, you've got now time to invest into research these projects and take the time to figure it all out and have something repaired that can be beautiful and useful again. And that's, I think, so satisfying, isn't it?
It's very satisfying. And I've enjoyed being able to revive some of the things that I thought I would have to end up throwing away.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Okay, cool. And do your family do they see changes in you and in your house? Do they notice that? Or are they like, oh, she's moved to a bigger house, so she's fine? Or do they actually go, wow, apart from your temporary kind of chaos in your office, do they notice those differences?
Well, they certainly do. The other day, my son, who's turning 40 this year, he came over to help me with a bike that I had bought on Facebook Marketplace.
Yeah.
I paid $20 for a beach cruiser that I can ride on the Riverwalk, which is right behind us here. And the exciting thing was he came into the house and he said, "Oh, Mom, I love this house." And I said, "Thank you." And he says, "And it's so clean." And I think he was noticing that there wasn't a lot of clutter. There wasn't extra stuff on the island, but a few plants. There wasn't things on the counter because I have a big enough pantry that I don't store any of my appliances on the counter. And the windowsill has beautiful plants in it and the sun comes in on them. So I think that it's different. And yes, it is clean.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's nice. I can get my steps in for my count for the day by walking my floor and dusting it. So, I mean, I have a lot of purpose here. Plus, I can go to the gym and I get that for free because I'm on Medicare.
So what keeps you now busy these days? I mean, you said you're a retired teacher, you were in the National Guard. So what do you do these days then, Judie? What floats your boat?
Well, I haven't quite launched it yet, but I'm starting an online business. And basically, because I taught effective writing and psychology, I'm able to help students like both at the high school level and at the college level to write papers. In fact, I've helped several students with their international baccalaureate, what they call extended essays,
Okay.
and they've done extremely well. So I have a lot of already clients that have paid me very well to help not only to write the paper, but correct it and edit it and make sure that it's in the proper format when it does go into their instructor.
Okay.
So this business will launch in the next several months. And I'm really excited because my son, who is 41 and never going to be married, has actually been the one who's helped me design it. He does a lot of online design work and he lives now in Medford, Idaho. So he's kind of in the middle of nowhere, but he's very good at his design stuff. So
amazing. So because I know listeners, you can't see Judie, but Judie just told me that she is 70 because she absolutely looks amazing. So you wouldn't think she was 70. So yes, you can just start a business when you're 70. You can do that. And I love that. I love that entrepreneurial spirit and how wonderful that your children can help you along the way with setting it up. And I think also setting up a business, you have to have some clarity, I think, in your life. Your home needs to be a place where you feel calm. So you've got the mental space to do that, I think.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I do have a dedicated office space in my home, so that'll be helpful.
Yeah. Your amount of space, I think some listeners must think, oh, I'm so jealous of all the space that she has. I wish I had such a big pantry. I would love it. But you know what? We're all in different parts of the world and we've got different houses that we need to work around our lives. So, okay, before we close, Judie, what is your favorite bit in the Declutter Hub? What's the thing that you think, that makes me happy? That is always something that I love to look at or attend, or what is it that you think?
Well, since I've been through the whole thing, it's the things that come in now that are new to me.
Yeah.
And for those, it's always you and Leslie who are like spicing it up and giving us the laughs along the way that help me to enjoy what I'm doing.
Oh, thank you. Have you got any top tips for our listeners that you think, that's what I would love everybody to know, and maybe things that you've learned throughout your last year with the Declutter Hub? Maybe there's something you think, that's what you should do.
I think the best thing that I have done is I've just made sure that I have taken the time to finish the projects. I think even if it's a small project, you need to start, you need to get through it. And if it's only going to take you 10 minutes, take that 10 minutes and don't shortchange yourself to finish. That's the most important thing for me. Plus, I think that I've been able to do it because I am retired, but you can take that time in the middle of your day, wherever you have, clutter. Just figure it out quickly and get it over with.
Yeah. I love that. Don't shortchange yourself. That's a very cool terminology. I really like that. So yes, it's indeed very important to finish a project when you start it, right? Because then you can get the enjoyment and the pleasure of going, I've done that. And it's a very important part in our cycle of success as well, finishing the job, enjoying that you've accomplished, however small the task is. Right, listeners? So I hope you are feeling inspired by Judie's podcast and about her positivity of getting her decluttering jobs done over the past year and the amazing items that she found when she was going through all of her boxes of her grandmother. So we hope you've enjoyed this podcast. Thanks, Judie, for being here.
Thank you, Ingrid, for having me. It's been fun.
It's been my absolute pleasure. So thanks, listeners. We hope you've enjoyed this podcast. We hope to see you next week. And next week, we're going to talk about taking care of others in your life. So thanks for listening and see you soon.
Thanks so much for listening to the Declutter Hub podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to us in your podcast player so you don't miss an episode, and we'll see you next week.